Hi, my name is Robert Shelley with Chelle Law, and my law firm assists professionals with employment contract issues. Today I'm going to talk about, is there a penalty for terminating a contract early, an employment contract? The answer to that is, I guess it depends what you consider a penalty, and then how can the professional actually terminate the contract. So in most contracts, well, in all contracts, there needs to be termination language, meaning how can the professional terminate the employment agreement? And it's usually one of four ways. One, if there's a fixed term, so let's say it's a 1-year contract, there's no language about automatic renewal, then after the term ends, the contract terminates, the parties can move on. Two, mutual agreement. If, let's say, the relationship isn't working out, and both parties are okay moving on, they can mutually agree to terminate, move on. You can terminate for cause. So if one party is in breach, give them written notice, and then they have a certain period of time to fix whatever the breach is. And then lastly, without cause termination, which is the, most standard way of terminating a contract, simply means either party can terminate an agreement at any time with a certain amount of notice to the other. It depends upon industry, but anywhere from 30 to 90 days is pretty standard. So whether the professional has to pay a penalty or is penalized in some way depends upon the language in the agreement. So let's say the professional received a signing bonus or relocation assistance as well. They're moving from out of state or to a different city. Most of the time, there will be language in the contract that states if the professional leaves before a certain period of time, they'll have to pay back a portion of the bonus. So let's just take a $20,000 signing bonus as an example. Let's say it's a 2-year contract. The professional receives the $20,000 signing bonus. The contract may state for the first 2 years of the agreement, usually it would be monthly, forgiveness. So for every month that the professional is there working, 1/24 of that 20,000 is forgiven, meaning as long as they stay for 2 years, they don't have to pay anything back for the signing bonus. In that scenario, let's say they only stayed a year and left. Well, they'd owe half of the signing bonus back, so they'd have to pay back to the employer $10,000, and that would, considered by most people to be a penalty. Same for the relocation assistance. If they reimbursed the professional for the costs associated with the move, same thing would apply. Usually it would be tied to the initial term length, and then they'd have to pay back a portion. Some places do monthly, some do quarterly, some do yearly forgiveness. It's better for the professional if it's monthly forgiveness. Because if you think of it this way, let's say the professional leaves in month 11 and it's yearly forgiveness. Well, they spent almost the entire year there, but they left before the year ends, and now they have to pay back, half in the scenario I spoke about earlier. Whereas if it's monthly, you would get 11 of the 12 months forgiven, and so you wouldn't have to repay as much. Some contracts will have some kind of penalty or liquidated damages. If the professional leaves within a certain period of time, they'll ask for a recoupment of recruiting fees in healthcare, credentialing, privileging, any money they've spent on licensing, DEA registration. So they may say in the contract, if the professional leaves in the first year, they have to pay us back and reimburse us for all of these things that we paid. I don't like that kind of language in a contract. I can understand for the signing bonus and relocation assistance to be some kind of reasonable forgiveness. But recruitment fees, that's just kind of the cost of doing business in my mind. So that could be another penalty. Rarely would I see a contract that has a fixed number, meaning if the professional leaves within a certain period of time, they just simply have to pay back, 20,000 or 50,000 or whatever the number is. That is in some contracts. I don't like that language either. I don't think that's fair. But these are all things that the professional needs to think about and absolutely needs to negotiate before signing the employment agreement. Everyone who goes into a new job with the intention of it being a tremendous opportunity, everything looks great, all the people are great to work with, and then you get there and it's terrible. Or if you're based upon like collections or commission or whatever, the work just simply isn't there. You're not making nearly as much as they said you would or that you expected. So in that scenario, you absolutely want the option to terminate the agreement and move on. And if there's a bunch of penalties associated with that, it could be a problem. Another thing to think about, if someone has a bunch of penalties in their contract for leaving, let's say in the first year, usually to me, that's a red flag that they've had a difficult time holding on to people, which means they're probably a bad employer or treat their employees poorly or for whatever reason. But if there's like a bunch of penalties in the contract for leaving within the first year or two, that usually means they're either bad business people or treat their employees poorly. So something to think about as well. So those are kind of the ways a professional can be penalized if they leave before the term ends. Really have to think about, all right, if this goes bad, what am I going to owe after the contract ends? And then you got to determine if it's worth even pursuing the opportunity or not. If you have any questions, you can always call us at the phone number listed below in the description or reach us through our website, chellelaw.com. There's also a link below to the website. Appreciate you watching the video. Thanks.